Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. On tap for today, we're going to review the first 3 practices of Eagles training camp. We're going to give our thoughts. We're going to give the headlines, and we're also going to do some rapid-fire questions. If you guys like what you see, make sure to hit like and subscribe below. Thank you guys for watching. Go Birds, baby.
Sixers win it! Wow!
Oh man, Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me get a hell yeah!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. Let's start off with some introductions. Our first guest, he goes by Victor. You can follow him on Twitter. I'm sure you already do. You can follow him on Twitter at the Philly Pod. What is up, Victor?
What's going on, man? Happy to be back on the second iteration of Party on Broad. I've made it both times. I'm happy I've been able to. Should be a good show today.
Thanks for joining, man. What do you got going on right now?
So I just released a podcast yesterday with Mr. John McMullen, Eagles insider who works for South Jersey ESPN. He gave us a lot of information on your man, Cre'Von LeBlanc. He was the one this week that made a report stating that the Eagles are making their due diligence on Jadeveon Clowney. To set it straight, we're not interested in Jadeveon Clowney. So just to put it in perspective. But a lot of good guests in the past and a lot more upcoming. So be sure to stay tuned for all the interviews I've been doing lately.
Awesome sauce. That is at the Philly Pod. We also got today Steven. What's going on, Steven?
What's up, guys? Glad to be on my first invite here on the Party on Broad. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You can follow Steven on Twitter at Philly Fanatic. Steven has his own YouTube channel. It's Steven Conrad Jr. I'll make sure to put that link down below. What do you got going on, man?
Oh, nothing in the works right now. Just steady with the grind. It's summertime right now. I mean, football is just around the corner. Can't wait. Let's dive into it.
Let's do it, man. I don't know about you guys, but dude, watching Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson talk to the media for the first time, dude, I got the chills, man. It's here. Football is back. They were in pads for the first time today. Let's go through some top headlines through 3 practices so far. There's training camp. Obviously, the first one we got to start with is Carson Wentz is healthy. He's ready to go. Reports indicate that Carson Wentz and Deshaun Jackson, man, their chemistry on the field, off the field. They were seen talking on the sidelines together today. I believe at one point today, Carson Wentz threw Deshaun Jackson a 2-yard pass, and you could hear the fans just cheering for a 2-yard pass in the background. Dude, is there any more important duo during training camp right now? I'm going to ask for you to give me another duo in training camp. What do you got, Steven?
So when you say duo, I usually always think of, at least in football, a quarterback and wide receiver connection. So we're going to go with that. To me, it's got to be Carson Wentz and I guess our number 1 wide receiver, Alshon Jeffrey. He's got to put to bed the whole knock that Nick Foles had better chemistry with him. He's got to show that he can get the ball to his number 1 receiver. I think that's got to be something we look forward here in training camp and the start of the season.
I love it. How about you, Victor?
So the big duo, not really necessarily like duo on the field, but the pairing that is interesting in training camp would probably be Jason Peters and Andre Dillard, just because Dillard is in his wings, and we're probably going to have to expect Jason Peters to miss like 3 to 4 games just on age alone. So Dillard is going to be under his wing, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how much Dillard can learn, and if he's going to be thrown into the fire, how fast can he put everything he's learned into effect this season.
My first gut feeling was Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham, but I want to go outside the box a little bit on this one. I'm going to go with Mike Groh and Doug Peterson. Mike Groh is the offensive coordinator for the Birds. Last year, he took a ton of slack. Last year, first quarter, man, it sucked. 2.6 per game. That was second last in the NFL. He had a tough time integrating Golden Tate last year, if you guys remember. I think he called it like challenging. Oh, well, guess what? Mike Groh has all these weapons on offense this year. That Peterson-Groh duo, that's what I'm watching this preseason. Any other duos you guys can think of?
The main one. So thoughts just on the Mike Grove thing and the Golden Tate thing. So last year, or not last year rather, like when I first started the pod, I was screaming week to week about how can you not implement Golden Tate when he's the yards after catch leader? Like you literally just throw him a curl and he'll make it happen. Like it's not hard to implement him. So that's embarrassing in that regard. But I guess one other one would be Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, just because I expect a ton of double tight end sets this season, especially in the red zone. And I expect to see a lot of Arcega-Whiteside and Alshon Jeffrey to kind of complement that double tight end set. So it should be a big bodied red zone this season. So Goedert and Ertz they have to get their chemistry together also, along with Carson Wentz. Wentz and Ertz have well-known chemistry because apparently he's been throwing too much to him last season. I think he'll put that to rest, and Dallas Goedert should see an increased role this season.
They led the league, I think, in dual
did
last season. So I think
broken record for a reason.
Yeah, we're only going to see more and more of that. Any others, Steven?
Not that I could really think of. You guys really hit on a lot of them, and I actually really like the one you brought up, Chris. I didn't even think about that. That's actually going to be really important when you look at the Super Bowl run the Eagles had. I mean, our coaching staff, everybody was on point. They all had chemistry, and that's just something that's really underrated, flying under the radar. We got to see how Doug Peterson and Mike Grove continue to grow together, and hopefully Mike Grove can put all the pieces in the right places to make this a successful season, and hopefully another party down Broad.
Awesome segue. I think another really big headline of this camp so far has been chemistry. Doug Peterson was asked on the first day, Super Bowl or bust. And he was like, nah, I don't want any of that. This camp is for building team chemistry. I think, like you said, Steven, that chemistry they had back in 2017, that was a huge, huge reason. You can't put that on paper. That's just something that was just magical that they had. Doug Peterson has made it very clear that chemistry in the locker room is really the goal for training camp right now. Any thoughts on building that team chemistry, Victor?
I think as far as team chemistry, the one that is most interesting to me is the offensive line, just because the offensive line gets like limited time, all five of them together in training camp. Jason Kelce and the rest of them. Brandon Brooks, who's somehow is taking reps after that Achilles injury. That's remarkable in its own right. But they don't play too much together in training camp, the five of them. It's going to be interesting to see how they can retain their chemistry with the switches between injuries. Like I mentioned before, Peters is always in and out, but I think with Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks and the rest of them, I think if they can at least try and get some of the chemistry back that they had seasons prior, it should be solidified come week one.
Nailed it, man. How about you, Steven?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually, that's another thing you brought up, the offensive line. That's actually so important. I feel like we always have these conversations to start off each and every single NFL season. It seems like our offensive line chemistry is never where it should be. So starting from here on out, it's so important that those guys continue to get reps together. And Andre Dillard, a guy I'm going to be keeping my eye on at that left tackle position, hopefully learning behind Jason Peters, man, and having himself a nice long career at tackle here in Philadelphia.
I love it, man. That offensive tackle position definitely has my eye. It was reported that you had Andre Dillard learning under Jason Peters, and then you have Jordan Mailata learning under Lane Johnson. Really, really interesting battle there. Actually, they were reported that Andre Dillard really held his own against Josh Sweat today. Good for you, Dillard.
I heard that too.
Yeah, man.
I heard he ran through him, actually.
Yeah, that offensive tackle has to be the premier training camp battle. Is there any other training camp battles that you have your eye on for training camp? Go ahead, Victor.
I think the one to make note of is probably cornerback at this point, because nobody knows who the starters are going to be between LeBlanc's injury and whatever's going on with Jalen Mills and the rest of them. I think, and me and you die on this hill together, Chris, that Avonte Maddox is CB1, like he has to be at this point, unless Darby recovers and he regains that speed. As aforementioned, Darby has great speed, but like he has straight line speed, not necessarily like stay with your man speed. So it's just a matter of when you come back from that tear, even if he does come back fully, Darby is known to still get injured, down the line. He's not the most durable player. I think cornerback battles, that slot between, I think Sidney Jones has had a few good performance days in training camp. So between him and Avonte Maddox, I think those two are the leading two cornerbacks as of this moment.
One of the really, you had a recent pod with John McMullen, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he harped on that I absolutely loved was he stressed the importance of the slot cornerback. Mm-hmm. How important, like that third cornerback on your team is now a bona fide starter. So what about you, Steven?
So yeah, the secondary is like the one that jumps out to me the most. But what about the running back rotation? I mean, I kind of completely forgot about Darren Sproles until one day, boom, he signs a 1-year deal with the team. What's the running back rotation going to be like? I think it's pretty clear that Jordan Howard's probably going to be like your early down type of running back. I was huge on Miles Sanders, by the way. Not a Penn State fan, just love Miles Sanders' game. I think he complements Jordan Howard really good. And then I just figured Corey Clement would be our third back. But how does that work now that Darren Sproles re-signed? I feel like there's going to be a little battle, really from the second back to, I guess, your fourth string running back. I feel like that's going to be a battle to be determined till week 1, I guess.
I think the biggest thing you need to see there is how Miles Sanders picks up pass protection and, catches out of the backfield. I do not see Doug Peterson straying away from Darren Sproles during third downs, but that's a way for Miles Sanders to definitely get more touches early on. That's a really good one, Steven. The running back position, it's one of the strongest positions on the team, I think. But yeah, that third down back between Corey Clement and Darren Sproles, and who knows? We're not even talking about Josh Adams.
Yeah.
So,
Adams won't be on this roster. He won't be on this roster.
Smallwood will find a way to be on this roster.
Smallwood better not be on this roster. I promise you, I'll find a way to get to Philly myself.
He always ends up being a lead back somehow.
I'll drive him to whatever team he wants to go to.
Let's get into the secondary a little bit. So Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby, they were put on the PUP list. Ronald Darby was actually suited up and wearing pads today. Obviously, he didn't participate during practice. Rasul Douglas, Sidney Jones, they were the first corners today. Avonte Maddox has been great in these 3 practices so far. He played nickel today. Same for Sidney Jones. If you had to pick like a standout so far through 3 practices on the defense, it's been Sidney Jones from all these reports. He had an interception today versus Nate Sudfeld and a deflected pass against Carson Wentz. Wow, Sidney Jones has been a standout. How would you rank the cornerbacks on this roster right now? Victor, go ahead.
Rank them like by player or like the group as a whole?
By player, like 1 through.
Like in order?
Yeah.
Oh, so Avonte's definitely in my book. Avonte, like, we're factoring injuries or just skill set, like the way that it is now.
Without injuries.
Oh, without injuries. Oh, skill set without injuries. Oh, if they're all fully healthy.
Yep.
Oh, I think just by default, Darby would have to be there, just because he's proven that he can stick with the cornerbacks when healthy, and he is the fastest corner. So you can at least put him on the fastest guy on the field, and he can be there. Don't expect him to tackle anybody, but that's another story. And then second, oh man, that's tough. It's between Jalen and Maddox, but I think Jalen, just based on experience, and Jalen Mills has been there in the big spots, and he's a 7th round pick, and he's proven that he does belong in the NFL. Then I'd put Maddox, followed by I think, because Rasul Douglas, Sidney Jones. I think Sidney Jones just on potential, and then we can go Rasul Douglas. Isn't there a 6th? Who's the 6th?
Cravon.
Oh, Cravon. Yeah, Cravon has to be last. He's a journeyman, so he's last by default. I hate it. But, we can't bank on half a season of Cravon the block as our decisions.
Oh, you're killing me, man. How about you? How about you, Steven?
So I generally agree with Vic's list, except I gotta swap out. I think, did you put Jalen Mills 2nd?
I did.
I would put him 3rd, and I gotta put Maddox too. I just love the way he played. I'll never forget that the freaking game against the Los Angeles Rams last season. He had such a big impact on that game. I fell in love with the guy. PA native, right? Played for Pittsburgh.
Yep.
But generally, I would agree with your list.
I remember that Rams play, got great extension, and for a small cornerback, that's tough to do.
That was
and
amazing,
guy his place, like that extension, that one play. I think I remember the same play you're talking about. That deflection, and he's like 5. What is he? 5'9", 5'10" for a guy that's small.
Yeah, he's not very tall.
He can extend and get his hand in there, so that's good for Avonte Maddox.
I'm going Avonte Maddox number 1.
Good job, man.
Yep, I'm doing it. I think he's going to be obviously all over the field. I got Darby 2. I got Jalen Mills 3. I'm not a big Jalen Mills guy. I got Cravon number 4.
Got all of them.
Yep, and Sidney Jones number 5, and Rasul Douglas.
Oh,
dang. So, all right. Ready to do some rapid fire questions?
Rapid.
Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I got to start with how many yards and touchdowns for Deshaun Jackson this year? Go ahead, Steven.
Wow. Yards and touchdowns. So Deshaun, with him, I think when he does touch the ball, I mean, I could be wrong. Doug Peterson may create a lot of gadget type plays for him. You're going to see a lot of deep balls. Might not touch the ball quite as much, but his impact is much larger than that. Man, touchdowns. I'm going to say, is 5 too many? 5 touchdowns?
Nah.
It's not enough.
He'll probably end up getting more. Yards. See, we say, I think he'll be around 800 yards.
Okay. How about you, Vic?
Yeah, I was around 700 yards for Deshaun Jackson this season, and I'm at 8 touchdowns just because he's a home run hitter. And I expect at least 1/3 of the times he touched the ball should be scoring. He should be scoring 33% of those times. So I have him right around what Steven said about the 700-800 yard mark, and I think he'll score 8 times this year.
Love it. All right. Zach Ertz, 824 yards 2 years ago. He had over 1,000 yards last year. I'm setting the over-under for Zach Ertz for this season at 999 yards. Go ahead, Victor.
Over, without a doubt.
How about you, Steven?
Over, really? Actually, I'm going to say under. I think there's just too many weapons on this team. I think he's going to be right under that.
That's where I was going with that, is that there's just so many weapons on this Eagles offense that I really think we're going to see a huge balance. You might see weeks where Ertz gets 2 to 3 catches and Goddard gets 6 to 7, and you get way more target. Yeah, dude, I think this is going to be a very balanced attack this season, not like last year. All right, can you name the current starting wide receivers for the New York Giants?
They're all savages.
Yeah, they just lost their first 3, didn't
They
they?
lost all 3 of them. That's it. It's probably what's his name? Who's the dude that scored on this? What's his last name? King? Something Tyrell something
gosh.
King. I can't. Tavares King, something like that.
Don't look at me. I have no
Is he
idea.
even still on the roster? They lost. So Tate has this whole suspension, whatever he's doing, pills for fraternity, whatever he's doing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know what he's doing. So that Sterling Shepard dislocated his thumb or something, and then I forget what the third guy did. I forget the third guy, but they're all hurt or going through something.
Awesome. All right. How would you rank the Eagles running backs this year in terms of touches, going 1 through 5? Go ahead, Steven.
Bold statement coming up.
Hot take.
Actually, I'd take that back. Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard will have the most touches. I was going to say Miles Sanders. I was thinking for a second that he would just prove to be just an all-around back where he can do stuff when he's carrying the ball and out of the passing game, but I don't think he's ready. Not in his rookie season. Jordan Howard, you said rank him?
Yeah.
Okay, Jordan Howard 1, Miles Sanders 2, Sproles 3rd, Clement 4th, and then I guess if there is a 5th, Josh Adams, I guess.
Oh, love it. How about you, Vic?
All right, so number 1, Pumphrey. Just kidding. No. All right, so Jordan Howard will undoubtedly get the most touches. Oh man, I think 2 will be Miles Sanders, but I think Darren Sproles won't be a distant 3rd. I think he'll be right there, just because Doug Peterson says 5 to 7 touches, but we all know how Doug Peterson loves Darren Sproles. He tried to convince us that he was a lead back at some point.
Oh my God! Remember early last year when Sproles
Bell cow.
That was so painful.
And then 4th and 5th will be Clement and Smallwood interchangeable. I think Adams and I don't think Pumphrey should even be here, but I think Adams. We'll get. I think he'll get cut, but I think he'll get picked up by another team and provide for them. But I don't think it'll be here.
All right. If Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby are healthy, week 1, do you trade Cre'Von LeBlanc? Go ahead, Steven.
Oh man, me personally, I was a big LeBlanc fan. I mean, I guess if both of those guys are healthy, Jalen Mills to me also has to prove that he can perform. I don't know. I'm just not sold on the guy as a player. Sometimes I even wonder if he's playing the right position or not. Sometimes I wonder if he should be the safety spot. I'm going to say no. I don't think LeBlanc should be traded.
All right. How about you, Vic?
I think if Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby are both healthy, and do we trade LeBlanc? And Sidney Jones is healthy. He's in there.
Everyone's healthy. Yeah.
Everyone's healthy. LeBlanc has to go. It's not anything against LeBlanc. It's just that he's the odd man out at that point. And if Sidney Jones is playing the slot perfectly well, I don't know what use LeBlanc unless they want to do a cornerback by committee thing and just rotate 5 cornerbacks the whole time for different matchups. But I can't see what LeBlanc would provide that Sidney Jones can't if he's healthy and performing the way he's supposed to. So not a slight against LeBlanc there. He just will be the odd man out in that scenario.
I fully agree with that. My heart does not want us to trade Trayvon LeBlanc. One of my favorite players on the
that Saints game. That's all you think about.
That's all I think about, man. That interception on Drew Brees in the first game.
That's 4 real repeating.
Oh my god, man! Just I remember just screaming my lungs out. All right. My heart says no. My gut says yes. Sidney Jones was seen today rotating at the slot cornerback and on the outside today. Yeah, and Crayvon's been injured. I think the last 2 practices. I mean, I look at Crayvon LeBlanc. This is a guy that was cut twice, I think, in November. He's a guy that I think might get hinkied. I think Howie Roseman's going to see this guy as a guy that was cut and maybe can flip for a decent draft pick, maybe in a week or 2. All right, let's move on. Brandon Brooks. I think he's been the surprise of training camp. He tore his Achilles 7 months ago. He's out there participating in drills. Should we be worried or should we be concerned? Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'm going to say I'm surprised, first of all. There definitely should be some worry. I mean, my gosh, an Achilles injury?
Should we be excited?
I'm sitting here yo, aren't they the same thing?
I mean, holy.
Keep it to myself.
Yeah, but I'm definitely concerned, though. I mean, an Achilles injury, I mean, you hear so many athletes that their careers just went down the drain after that. And we're talking about Kevin Durant, who just tore his Achilles, missing all of this season. Some are saying he should take time off the next season, too. Definitely concerned, but I'm surprised more than anything. The dude's a warrior. I was really concerned when he went down. We would have to look at possibly drafting a guard or signing one in free agency. So, I mean, it's like house money at this point if he's playing in training camp. Holy.
How about Big V playing right guard? Wow. We heard that today. What's your thoughts on that, Vic?
Concerned. Just because the dude's like a big guy, and all that weight on that Achilles. I'm not sure how it's going to hold up. I want to believe that, Doug Peterson and that medical staff believe that they wouldn't put him out there unless they were, fully certain that the Achilles was okay. But it's just not feasible for him to recover that fast. No matter what the medical staff says, I think precautions, you should have kept him out anyway. But if he's in there, then he's in there for a reason. It's just that the dude is it's a lot of stress to put on an Achilles that was repaired not too long ago. So I want to be excited, but at the same time, I'm not sold on Big V if he tears that thing again week 2. So I'm not in it. Yeah, I'm more concerned than anything.
I fully agree. I'm more concerned. Do not rush this guy back. We don't need him for September, and
one of our 90 rated guys in Madden, man. We need him.
Yeah, dude. we need Brandon Brooks for December. Don't rush him back. Just please don't rush him back. All right. Little trivia question: who led the Eagles in rushing yards last season? Go ahead, Steven.
Rushing yards last season. Was it Josh Adams?
It was. Good job.
Okay. He didn't have. He was 533 yards or something like that.
Well done. He had 3 touchdowns too. All right. Who will lead the Eagles in receptions this year? Go ahead, Vic.
In receptions?
Yep, receptions.
Ooh.
If Doug Peterson utilizes both tight ends, on an equal rate, I think it would be Alshon in a possession standpoint. Deshaun is the home run hitter. I don't expect a ton of receptions this season. I expect more yards from him than anything else. Aguilar is kind of in the same role. He'll be in the slot, but I think as long as we don't overuse Zach Ertz, I think Alshon will be the leading receiver.
How about you, Steven?
I actually completely agree with that. I think the Deshaun Jackson addition, besides benefiting the run game and obviously helping the quarterback, I feel like he benefits Alshon Jeffrey more than anybody else. There's going to be weeks where I think a lot of teams put their best corner on Deshaun Jackson just because he's such a threat deep. Alshon's going to have a lot of favorable matchups, I think.
It's hard to go against Zach Ertz on this one for me, and Alshon is a really good one. Like you said, Steven, that Deshaun Jackson addition to me screams the middle of the field. I look at the Eagles' offense this year, and that middle of the field should be wide open. a little forgotten guy is Nelson Aguilar, who should be in the slot and should be getting a lot of opportunities. Like you guys said, I mean, just an incredibly balanced offense this year. I'm going to go with I can't say Nelson Aguilar. I can't. It's got to be Ertz. I'm sorry. It's got to be Ertz. All right. Should I be worried about the talent at defensive end? Go ahead, Steven.
Defensive end. So what do we have? We have Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham,
Josh Sweat, Sharif Miller.
Right.
Those are the main guys. Apparently, Josh Sweat has been playing very well in training.
Oh, okay. Maybe concerned a little bit. I definitely think that's something that should be addressed down the line as this team tries to build a dynasty, right?
Yeah. How about you, Vic?
If one of those guys go down, I'm super concerned. if we lose Barnett and or Brandon Graham, it's not like we have a Chris Long or a Michael Bennett that could slide in there anymore. Those I don't have any faith in Sharif this early. And who's the other guy? Josh Sweat. I don't put a lot of stock into training camp, so I firmly believe if you threw him in there week 1, he would get thrown around. So that's just my take on. I don't put a ton of stock in training camp. I'm super concerned if one of those guys go down, but I think it'll be a big Derek Barnett prove it year. Not really prove it year because he hasn't had time to prove it. But I think it'll be a big year for him. And Brandon Graham's always a constant, so I'm not concerned with him. I just hope they both stay healthy. I have no confidence in the depth there.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I've seen a lot of national media heads saying the Eagles have the best defensive line. I get it. Defensive tackle is stacked with Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Trayvon Hester, Tim Jernigans. That is stacked. But man, if someone goes down at defensive end, I'm terrified, guys. I'm terrified.
Yep.
Any last comments before we wrap this up?
Just to make note of the Giants earlier, it was Corey Coleman that tore his ACL, so he's down too.
Oh,
Wow.
So Sterling Shepard dislocated his thumb. Corey Coleman tore his ACL, and then you got Golden Tate trying to appeal his whatever he has going on. So yeah, so I don't know who's going to be catching balls. It looks like Evan Ingram's going to be a starter tight end in fantasy this season. So.
I mean that's how it was like for the Eagles in like November, man. I remember it just being like back to back to back to back. Like it was just almost like a running joke at some point.
Bryce Craig season for the Giants over.
Any last comments, Steven?
I actually have a question for you guys. Why not? Do you guys think it's fair to expect an MVP season out of Carson Wentz?
Sure is.
I mean, he absolutely. This is his turn to step up and show that he can be the quarterback we all think he is. I mean, he's had flashes. He had 2017, but to be honest, he hasn't earned it yet. So he has a lot to prove, especially with his health, especially throwing the deep pass, which he struggled with so far during training camp. So definitely something to keep an eye on. So obviously he's making it a point to build, chemistry as fast as possible with Deshaun Jackson, because hitting on that deep ball is extremely important for Carson Wentz. And, he's got a lot to prove, just making decisions. He's got to,
throw that thing away, man.
Know when the player is dead. He's got to know, he's got a little Joel Embiid in him when he's, diving around and fighting for that extra yard, when just run out of bounds, dude. Just take it, accept the failed play, live for the next down. So there's a lot there for Carson to absolutely improve upon.
Yeah, I think it's not like he tore his ACL last season and he's coming back from that. He did play last season, and whatever the severity of his back was, he did play last season, so he did have his toe in the water there. It's not like he was out for football for a year and he has to come back and learn the game over again or get used to game speed. He has a full off season to get everything together, get his apparently he revamped his diet or whatever the story is. So I expect a true MVP form Carson Wentz this season. Not saying he'll win it, because who knows what Mahomes will do or what Brady will do or anything like that, but we should see a Carson Wentz reminiscent of 2017.
Apparently Carson took the receivers to Texas during the offseason to work out.
He takes them everywhere. Yeah.
I know. Trooper.
Hiking, whatever they're doing.
What about you, Steven?
I definitely think it's fair to expect that. Besides the Lombardi trophy, that's I want all the gold this season, I want him to have that MVP trophy on top of that too.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining Party on Broad. We'll be running these probably at least once a week, definitely more once the games start. We're only a week and a half away. It's freaking crazy. All right, make sure you follow Victor on Twitter at the Philly Pod. That is the Philly Special Podcast. Make sure you follow Steven on Twitter at Philly Fanatic YT. And it's YouTube channel, Steven Conrad Jr. I'm Chris, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Go Birds, baby. Take care.
Birds.
Let's go.
Sixers win it! Wow!
Oh man, Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook